So, hey, welcome. Today is the first Friday of the month of April. I swear I felt like the month of March had about 900 days in it. And so I'm excited about being here with everybody. And today is the first Friday of the month. And we're going to talk like we always do. We're going to bring our information about our partnership against domestic violence straight to the people who need to hear it. And so we're excited to have with us, there's no better dream team in the world than our CEO and our VP of Vice President of Community Outreach.
And Outreach.
There we go.
Prevention and Outreach.
Thanks. All right. So one of my things I'd like to do, I'd like to propose for next fiscal year, is to shorten everybody's titles to something that's easy for me to say, and then we won't have these issues anymore. But I'm going to stop talking here for a second. Nancy, I'd love for you just to introduce yourself and tell us what you do for Partnership Against Domestic Violence.
Hey everybody, my name is Nancy Freoff and I am the CEO for Partnership Against Domestic Violence, and welcome to our new reality. I very much miss being able to sit down in a room with Jeffrey and Sam and chat about our work, and I am grateful for the amazing technology and the great people like Jeffrey who knows how to use the technology so we can still be with you and still have a conversation about what's going on.
So this is called learning on the fly, Nancy, to be honest with you. I didn't know about this
100%.
before the beginning of this week, but I just felt like, man, we have to figure out a way to continue to bring our message to people in whatever way we have to do that. We'll make it happen. So Sam, our Vice President of Prevention and Outreach, take it away. Who are you and what do you do for PADV?
So hi everyone, my name is Samantha Macedo. I am, as Jeffrey mentioned, the Vice President of Prevention and Outreach, and what that means is that I get to supervise 3 different programs. One of them is the Teen Dating Violence Prevention Program, and then that's the one where we go out to schools and youth organizations to talk to young people about healthy relationships, what is dating violence and what are the warning signs, what is the help available. I also manage the Legal Advocacy Program. That's the program where if someone needs a protection order, we have advocates on site that can help them navigate that process. And the Outreach Program, it's about community relationships, community partners, support groups, presentations in the community, and all of that good stuff.
And I think everybody knows me. I'm Jeff Brown. I'm the VP of Development and Marketing, and it's a lot shorter than what Sam has to do. I just get to raise money and play on Facebook all day. So that's what I get to do. But let's jump into it. Nancy, first question. You brought it up. I mean, we're in a new reality right now. What has been PADV's response to COVID-19?
So we are responding and learning and growing and changing every day, as I think everybody is, as we go through this crisis. I have to commend our staff. They've been exceptional. They've been on top of this. Our shelter and supportive housing staff have been on top of it, really even before March, with preparing for it, getting extra cleaning supplies, sanitizer, that type of thing, making sure we were well stocked. We are doing everything that we can to make sure that the services that victims of domestic violence need are available to them. Maybe not in the same way that they were available before, but they're available. So we are not admitting new people into the shelter, but we are, for people that need shelter, providing motel and hotel vouchers. We still answer our crisis line 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that resource, 404-873-1766, remains available in exactly the same way it did before. We continue to provide our legal advocacy services. We are doing that remotely, where people who are filing for temporary protective orders or have questions about them can call our legal advocates and get assistance with filling out the paperwork, with what it's going to mean to file, what it's going to mean when that temporary protective order goes into place. We have canceled our community outreach and education presentations. We're doing the very challenging work of balancing the safety and well-being of our staff with the ever ongoing need for services and support for the people in the community that we serve. So while we're not going out in the community to do education, We do have infographics and information available, and people can contact us at info@padv.org with any questions that they have, and we'll respond and get out the information that they need. We're continuing our counseling services, doing that remotely as well. So again, just really trying to be there for people and to keep everybody as safe as we possibly can.
So Nancy, I think what I'm going to have to start doing is not sending you the questions before so that you can stop answering them, but ahead of time, which is awesome. And I think that's just a sign that you and I have worked so long together. So if you could just take a second and just talk to us about why the structure that we have in place as an organization right now, why was that so important for you as a CEO?
Well, again, we know how critically needed our services are, and they're needed in times of crisis, and they're needed in not times of crisis. And we know that crisis can make domestic violence worse. Violence is about gaining power and control. And if you're in a crisis situation and you feel completely out of control of what's going on, you may escalate the violence to try to get that power and control back. So we know we need to be there for our community. Our staff are incredible and valuable and wonderful people, and we have to protect them and we have to keep them safe. So that's why it's been that ongoing conversation and balancing act of how we respond to those that need us and how we respect the well-being of our staff.
That's awesome. So Sam, I want you to jump in here real quick. So what tips, because Nancy brought up, that we know that the violence, that as long as people are living in their homes, if they're living in a violent situation, some of them are trapped, right? Because we can't leave, we're sheltered in place. So what tips do you have for someone who is currently sheltered in place with their abuser?
Well, I think the first thing to consider is that, the stat that we're always talking about, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experience intimate partner violence. And now looking at this coronavirus situation, a lot of recommendations are about, shelter at home, we need to stay at home, and then for our clients, home is not a safe place.
Right.
And so this is can be a very serious situation for them. What we're trying to express and share with the community is that we need to take some special considerations. Again, when we say, don't leave home, just stay at home. So the first thing for our survivors out there is to have phone accessibility. So I know that part of the experience of abuse that some of our clients have is, their abuser has broken their phone or has isolated them even further. So one of the main things that we're emphasizing is, again, have phone accessibility. So if you are able to, if you have anybody who knows what's going on, and maybe you can create some kind of code word with them so that they know when you really need help, when police needs to be called. But if not, then have a lot of the phones that have been turned off, but you can still charge them, can work to call 911. So have some way to have access to a phone. Develop a plan. Our crisis line is still open, and they can safety plan with anyone who's calling, but develop some kind of plan. And then, of course, connect with an advocate to learn more about the resources that are available right now and how to have access to them.
That's
and
awesome.
another thing I would say, right, we are supposed to shelter at home, but you can go outside for exercise. You can go outside and take a walk. So how to frame things that if you need to, say, leave the house so you can use your phone to call for help, how you can perhaps frame it for your abuser so that it doesn't feel threatening. Hey, I know the kids are driving you crazy and they're making a lot of noise and they're getting on your last nerve. Let me take them out for a long walk so you can get some peace and quiet. You need to get out of the house so that you can call the hotline and say, help, I got to do something. But by framing it in a way that it feels safe and positive to the abuser, it makes it more likely that you're going to be able to safely get out of the house to use your phone.
One of the things that I've seen recently from your team, Sam, is just a lot more resources that we are now pushing to the community digitally. So when it seems like we've been living in this COVID situation forever, but it's not been that long. Why was it so important for you guys to respond so rapidly with the digital resources that you guys have started pushing to the community?
Well, that's a good question, because the way that things started to develop with the schools closing and some of them still doing food services, for example, in our outreach events being canceled, like our support groups, so the places where we normally are, whether it's, some consulate or, with our partners at a clinic, we were not going to be there available anymore. And it was important for us for the community to know that we're still open. Our crisis, those are the places where we're pushing for a crisis line number, where we're pushing with our materials and brochures. And then we had to shift to digital distribution, because we knew that there were some places where the public, the community was still connected with, and we needed to connect with them so that our information still go out. So kudos to the team, and who was very quick in preparing those infographics and also translated them into Spanish so that we could make sure that the community was still receiving our information.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been talking about with a lot of people. Honestly, it's just how do we find in all of this that we're going through, how do we find some positivity in it? And I think for us as an organization, the one thing that we've been able to do is show that we can continue to push our content and push what's important to this organization to the people that need it the most, regardless of whether or not we have access to them in person. And so we have to, when we get to the other side of this, what I would love for us to see us do is to continue to push this content digitally, in person, however we can get it to people, because I think it's forced us as an organization to be a lot more nimble in how we address and how we talk to people in the community. So kudos to—
Definitely, yes. A lot of creativity went into this. We our advocates that work in outreach, they're connected with a lot of partners, and so we are now, of course, still keeping in touch with them and seeing, like, okay, so what are you doing? How are you still active or not active? And then how can we still partner and distribute this information?
One of the things that I've seen, Sam, and I'll let you speak to this, is what if somebody needs a temporary protective order, right? Because that's something that we traditionally have done in person all the time. So what if somebody, I live in Gwinnett County, I live in Fulton County, I know two separate counties, right? What if somebody needs those services? How can they access them, and what are we doing to support them?
Being honest, that's one of the biggest challenges right now. For us who work in Fulton and Gwinnett County, I think the best thing is to connect with a legal advocate immediately so that they can help that person navigate the process, because each county is doing a different thing, and then they're responding differently based on the resources they have access to. So to give you an example, DeKalb County is doing the protection order process virtually. And that's very helpful for those who have a fear, a high concern of going to public places to request this very much needed protection. And so also this situation is changing pretty much every day. And so we hear, for example, in Fulton County, there are no hearings right now. So you can still go request a protection order, and there will be a hearing schedule at a later date. But you can still go request it, which is the most important thing. And then again, so because this situation is ever changing, the best thing a person can do is to connect directly with a legal advocate who can help them, even if it's not in Fulton and Gwinnett, but can help them connect with the right person in another county.
So how do we, go ahead, Nancy, go ahead.
By calling our hotline can then connect them with a Gwinnett legal advocate, a Fulton legal advocate, the DeKalb DV program. So again, that 404-873-1766, we can then route you to the resource that you need in your community.
Thank you. That's, again, Nancy, again, one step ahead of me. That was the question that I was about to ask next is give out that crisis line number one more time. So Nancy, I have two follow-up questions, one for each one of you. Nancy, you are always so good at just giving those pearls of wisdom to somebody who's currently living in a domestic violence situation. So if you could just take however much time you need to just speak to that person, man or woman, who's currently, who may be watching this, or who I'm a friend of somebody and I know they're in a domestic violence situation. Speak to those people. What can they do? What can they say? People have called us, hey, how can I help? I just asked you like 13 questions in one. Just speak to anybody who knows somebody who's in a bad situation. What do they need to know and how can they get us?
Well, what I would say to somebody who's living in a home with domestic violence right now is you are an expert on your home and your situation. You don't control the violence, you don't make that person be violent, and you can't stop that person from being violent, but you have learned how at times to keep things a little bit calmer. You've probably learned about what some triggers are. And so in this situation where you maybe can't get out, where it may feel safer for you to be at a home with the danger you do know than out in a shelter with the danger that you don't know and that's really scary. So use the skills that you've learned because you're strong and you've got skills and you're a survivor. Use those skills to get through this period. It will end. If your life is in danger, call 911, call the police, and they will show up and they will give you help. If it's not to that point and you feel like you need to stay at home right now, use that skill and that strength that you have. And then when you get past that, realize that the next time a crisis comes, you don't have to be stuck at home with someone that you're afraid of and that's hurting you. Call us when you can. Let us talk to you. Let us help you look at what your options are and how you can now move out of the situation so you don't ever have to worry about going through this again.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And again, you just took a 13 question answer and summed it up super nice. Sam, the question for you is and it may be too big for us to tackle in just this one video conference, and this may need to be a segment in and of itself. But the one thing I think about is our teen dating violence program, which is one of the fastest growing programs that we have. And then I think about my own life, right? I'm home with my 2 sons and my wife all the time. And I'm like, But that also brings across some really good time, right? Mm-hmm. If a parent has a teenager, do you see this as an opportune time for us to begin as parents to have that conversation with kids, our teenagers, about healthy relationships? And so if the answer is yes, how do we do that? And what are some warning signs that we need to be looking out for, even in this time, for a relationship that's unhealthy in our teenagers?
Oh, that's a really good question. And maybe, thinking about what you said, maybe what we, and as we continue to develop digital content, maybe that's something that we can tackle, because this is a time that you're never gonna have this time again, and so much time, and it's a blessing and a little challenging sometimes to spend this much time together. And I know a lot of folks are trying to figure out what, now that kids are not going back to school, how to keep them active and entertained and engaged. So yeah, maybe this is the time in which we can maybe create some kind of tool to have, at least, some kind of conversation, ongoing conversation, because it's not a one-time conversation, but ongoing conversation about healthy relationships and de-escalation tactics. I know one of the digital content we created was about de-escalation because we're spending a lot of time together in a close. So how to still be able to engage with each other and stay in harmony and stay in practice healthy relationships while we're at home. So maybe that can be a follow-up to that, all right, so these are some de-escalation tactics. If you're feeling like cabin fever, you're feeling like you're stuck in this place with like the same group of people every day. But then how do you now proactively have those healthy relationships conversation on an ongoing basis?
Right.
And Jeffrey, as someone who's raised 2 daughters, I think this can be a good time to have the conversation. I know teens, they don't want to sit down and have a serious heart-to-heart with you. So we can, even with stay at home, we can go for walks, we can exercise. So say to your teen, come on, let's go for a walk. And you're walking and you're talking about silly stuff. And then, hey, you know, what's going on at school and what's going on with your friends? And, you know, I noticed this one friend, whenever her boyfriend's around, she seems all tense and upset. Tell me about that. And maybe oh, mom, be quiet, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, all right, fine. You know, but then you go for a walk a day later and you bring it up again. And so I think sometimes using that opportunity to get outside and to bring it up casually and to do it with movement can help kids feel more comfortable opening up and having those conversations.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Sam. Sam, one quick question, and I promise I'll wrap this up. What are some of the warning signs as parents are home with their children? What are some of those warning signs that we should look out for if we think that our teenager's in an unhealthy relationship? What are some of those warning signs that we should look out for to see and know if it's true or not?
Right. And, you know, during this time, we're using a lot of technology. So I've seen people saying, all right, we're using like right now, we're using technology to stay in touch. But there's also a time in which we have to take a break from that. And, you know, when a certain time, 5 o'clock hits or whatever your log off time from work ends, you know, then you close all technology and have a moment to share with the family. I think that's going to be one of the main things to keep an eye out for. If you have that teen in your house who is completely unable to disconnect from that technology because otherwise they'll have an argument or a problem with their partner because they're not in that constant connection, then that's one thing to keep an eye out. Remember that abusive relationships are based on a pattern of controlling behavior. So having that constant control over constant communication, constant who are you talking to, who are you spending time with, it's something to keep an eye out for. So if that teen is just unable to disconnect for a moment from their partner because otherwise, you know, they'll get into an argument, that's probably one of the biggest warning signs right now.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing from both Nancy and Sam is that, yes, this is a conversation we need to have next as to just dealing with dating violence relationships, even during this time where we are not necessarily seeing each other as much as we would like to. So that's all I got. Any closing comments from either one of you guys?
Love seeing it.
Yeah. Well, this too shall pass.
Yes. Please remember, we're still here to help. So
yes, reach out, call us. We want to talk to you.
Yep, and mine obviously will be we're here, and PADV has some awesome leadership. And we have all made the decision that we are going to be here for the long haul, regardless. Our services are going to be open to the community, regardless of what happens around us. And so with that comes some costs. And so if you feel so inclined after watching this to donate to the organization, we would love to have you as part of our mission. You can always join our mission at padv.org. We invite you to connect with us socially, where we will be pushing a lot of content towards you. All of our social media handles are at PADV Atlanta. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this live Zoom conversation, and we hope that you'll be a part of the next one. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Sam.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Stay well, everybody.